Coach, the tight end has had a pretty important role in the offense through the years at BC in general. It's always been a position of value here. For you, the ability to work into that tradition, and for you, just your own experiences in coaching offense. What are you looking for out of your group? What are you looking to try and establish? And just kind of understanding that the tight end has obviously been a position here.
Yeah, well, first, I mean, these tight ends have been coached very well. They're very knowledgeable. They're very hardworking, and most important thing is they hold each other accountable. So that's something that's a pretty good structure to build off of. Just in my past, we've done a good job of using our tight ends in various situations. And for me, the most important thing is to make sure that we have our tight ends ready at all times to do whatever is asked. We're not really sure where our offense is going to lead right now. We have to really get out there and spring ball and see what we have. I know our tight ends are very talented. Again, they were coached extremely well, so you see a lot of that show up on tape from the last couple of years. So we got to just get out there and get a good feel of what we have before we build anything, before anything else. But the most important thing for me is to be accountable within the room, to be able to be called on anything and be able to, perform with whatever is asked.
Just in your own experience, you've obviously coached at a number of different levels, and you're coming here from the NFL. But from your experience, having played at Rutgers, having coached at junior college, having coached at the NFL, how is the position the same? Is it different? Are there within the scheme of different offenses? Does it change at different levels? And how does that kind of come together for you?
Well, the tight end position is pretty simple. I mean, they're as far as changing, no, not really. It's simple. You got to be involved in both the pass game and the run game. You got to be a good enough blocker to kick out the defensive end, cut him off, and then you got to be a good enough pass weapon to create mismatches. So changing, no. It all comes down to how well you can pick up the offense, and then how many different positions you can learn. Is probably the most important stuff for us. But our foundation is going to be based on technique and fundamentals. That's the most important thing for us, is being able to be technically sound and have our fundamentals in order to go do those things.
Have you gotten a good look at Hunter Long, and just talk about him as far as a downfield tight end, someone that can open the middle up and open the perimeter up from the middle?
Absolutely. Well, Hunter is a very hard worker. He's a great person, and we all know in here that he's a really good football player. As far as opening up downfield, he's a great athlete, so he'll be able to do whatever we ask. Not going to get into too much scheme about what we're going to have him do, but he's going to be elusive in whatever we want him to do. Blocking, pass receiving, wherever we line him up, whatever route we ask him to run, whatever blocking fundamental we have him do, he's going to be great at it because he's going to work hard at it, and obviously he's been gifted. So I don't see anything that is going to hold him back in anything we ask.
Coach, when you're recruiting tight ends and evaluating tight ends, there's you mentioned the versatility that they need. Is that something that you're always actively thinking about in terms of, like, this guy is 6'5", 250 and can really run, but he doesn't have the skills yet? Or, like, do you go for someone more polished? What's the kind of thought process in balancing the development and the ability to be ready to play?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to, first off, are they big enough at the time, or can they get big enough? You have to be able to. They have to be able to pass the eye test as far as body structure. We obviously like our guys to be able to bend and be fast. There's definitely different types of tight ends, ones that are used more primarily as blockers, one that are used primarily as receivers, and then you have those guys that can do it all. So you got to take all those things into account. But you have to be able to project a high school player. You have to be able to project, will he become tough, and will he become big enough to block? He has to be tough enough to start with. That's probably the biggest thing. You have to be able to be tough. You have to be able to bend and run. Everything else is a projection. Will he be able to get big enough? Can you teach him the blocking scheme? Will he be able to quicken his feet up enough at the top of the routes to be able to create mismatches and create leverage on different guys? So there's a lot of things to look at with those.